Hello, and welcome to Crafting Cat's Advanced Embellishments video tutorial series. This is part 2, Stamps and Ink, and this is our follow-up series to our Back to Basics Junk Journal series. And you can find the links for all of our videos in the description below, along with links to our Etsy shop and our Facebook page. So in this part, we're going to look at some different ways to use stamps and ink in our junk journal. We're going to work with the journal that we've been making since the very beginning of our Back to Basics series. So for today's projects, you'll need to have a variety of stamps, whatever you've got, along with some inks, and different colors are great. We're going to use 5 or 6 maybe. Definitely want one of them to be a vintage distress ink, or you can use black for this too. You're also going to want a couple of different types of stencils. So let's get started. First, we're going to do a feature stamp. So I have this large stamp that looks like a picture frame. So we're going to put that prominently on our page. Make sure that we get it right side up. I have this stamp of this kissing couple, but you could use a flower or a bunch of flowers, whatever you think is going to look good inside your frame. So I want to do 2 different colors. I want to do a sort of a shadow for this. So I'm going to use a light purple ink first, and I'm going to go a little off center on that. And then I want to use my black, which I think this is actually a dark gray, but that'll still be okay. And that'll go right in the middle. So I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's sort of a silhouette and then a shadow behind them. So then we'll just slip that page back in, and that's a feature stamp. We'll do another example of a feature stamp, and the reason I want to do this is because we're using coffee dyed paper, and I want to show you how to make sure that you don't end up with ripples throughout your stamp that you put on it, because it sort of has a texture to it. Okay, so I'm just going to ink this stamp very thoroughly. And then I'll just press it on the page. And when I lift the stamp, you can see that I didn't get the whole image. So what you can do is flip your page over and place it on top of your inked stamp, and then press it with your fingers, making sure you get the whole stamp. And then you'll see that it has a nice, complete image. So tuck that back in, and that's also a feature stamp. Okay, so next we want to do a border stamp. So we're going to use a small stamp, and I think this little butterfly looks good. And I want to use some of the colors that are going to coordinate with the page next to it. So these 3 colors, I think. Okay, so since I'm going to use the same stamp for 3 different colors, I want to start with the lightest color and leave a little space in between so I can add the next color. And then I've got just enough room between these butterflies for the 3rd color. Tuck that back in, if I can do it without ripping the page. There we go. Tuck it in, and that's how that looks. Okay, so next we'll do a different kind of border. This time I'm going to go across the bottom with some letters. I want to form a word. So I'm going to use my antique color and just 1 letter at a time till we get a word across there. And then I'll add some little stars just sort of randomly on the page to make it look cute. And we will tuck that back in. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so next we're going to do a top border, and this will be sort of a layered stamp border. So again, we're going to start with one of our lighter colors. Using 3 colors, I find an odd number works better, just looks better, at least in my opinion. So we'll get a light purple on there, and then we'll use a dark purple over it using the same stamp. Always the darker color after the lighter one. And I like how that looks, gives it sort of a 3-dimensional look. And then I just want to do a smaller bit with a 3rd color. So we'll do this little orange. It's a nice bright orange. We'll just kind of fill in the space here. And the other side. And slide our page back in. This is a thicker page because it has our flip out on it. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we're just going to do a corner stamp. This is super simple. I happen to have a corner stamp, so I'm just going to do opposite corners with our dark purple. Might not show up too well on the camera, but that's corners. So now I'm going to do an overlap with a stencil. An overlap is something that you open up and half of your print is on half and the other half is on the other half. Okay, so I have this framed lace looking stencil that I made out of I think it was a place card for a wedding or something. It had a number in the middle of it. I cut that out. And I'm going to use my distress ink and my blotter, and I'm just going to blot it thoroughly just on the lace part, leaving the center framed with just the page. There, I think that looks really nice. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like, and then you open it. Okay, so we'll tuck that back in. Slide it in there. And next we're going to do a collage, a full page stamp collage. Okay, so again, I'm going to start with my distress ink, and first I just want to go all the way around the edge. Put a piece of blotter paper underneath it. Antique the entire outside edge. And then I want to just sort of do an antique wash across the page, just to give it some antique look. Then I'm going to use this stamp again that I did the purple with. Use the purple again, and I'm just going to sort of randomly stamp it around this page. No particular pattern to it. Then I'm going to use the smaller one that I haven't used already, and I'm going to use this nice turquoise blue, and again just randomly stamp it around the page, a little on the edge here and there. And it's okay if they're not all perfect stamps because it's random. And then I want a simple image. Rose might be a little too much. How about this clock face? Okay, so, and I want this in a brown. so that it's not too obvious. I want it to be very subtle. And again, just randomly around the page. Sorry, I'm shaking the camera there when I'm doing my ink. That looks good. Okay, and finally I have a text stamp, and I'm going to do that in black. And again, I want to just do portions of it, just randomly around the page. Don't want to be too heavy with it, but I do want it to look sort of balanced. So I think that looks pretty good. Let's slip it back in and see how it looks in the book. There we go. Oh yeah, I like that very much. And last, we just want to kind of show you how to antique a page. We're going to ink around the edges with our distress ink. And again, just sort of give it a wash across the page, which makes it look less white and more tannish. And that's very simple. And we'll stick that back in the page, or in the journal. And that's what it looks like antiqued. So these are our basic ideas for using stamps and ink in your junk journal. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.